evening, everyone, and welcome to the LiveU Sports Show. My name is Chris Perry, coming to you live from Westboro, Massachusetts. We got a great show on tap for you tonight, folks, stretching all the way from Africa to right here in the Boston area. We are talking a lot of at-home production. Speaking of at-home production, let's head down to speak with my technical director, James, from a state known better for their tomatoes than their technical directors. Good evening, James. Welcome to the Sports Show.
Hey, Chris. Thank you for the fun little tomato fact there. Appreciate that. Nice haircut, by the way. Looks good.
Thanks, man. State's reopening. Glad I was able to not look like a shrub for this show, so appreciate you sticking with me.
Yes, very nice. I know you did want to mention something about the backdrop now that the 800 has officially been announced. Do you want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, so really exciting, folks. This particular backdrop was created before the 800 launch, was designed for NAB. Obviously, that didn't happen this year, but there's been an Easter egg in my backdrop the entire time. That's right, the 800 with lightning bolts coming out of it, right above my head the entire time in the backdrop. So props to any of you that might have noticed that. I know some of you saw the 800 logo and asked what the infinity sign was. So for our main story tonight, let's head off to South Africa, where joining me this evening is Trent Key, the managing director of Moonsport. Good evening, Trent. Welcome to the Sports Show.
Thanks, Chris. Great to be on your show, and thanks for taking time to meet with me.
Trent, can you tell us a little bit about how you guys would traditionally have produced an event? Because I understand you recently produced the Rugby Cup using an at-home production scenario versus in the field. Can you elaborate on how you guys arrived at at-home production and what it's meant for your business?
Sure. I guess like any conventional, traditional broadcast, we would have arrived on site the day prior, brought up an OB van and key crew members. And, you know, the nature of what this job required was a lot of traveling and resources in foreign countries. So when we took on the project, there was quite a few limitations that one wouldn't normally expect. You know, being down here in South Africa at the bottom and having to shoot in 4 countries in over 2 days, essentially, with multiple shoots happening a day, we would have had to source 3 or 4 crew to go around the country, and it just wasn't a feasible situation for us. So we had to look for alternative means and ways in order to do the production and handle it at the level that the client expected.
And can you walk us through what your workflow there was? Because obviously, you know, our viewers of the sports show understand the concept of REMI and at-home production, but what did it look like from a management perspective? How did you find these people? How did you get them the equipment? Because obviously there's a lot of logistics involved here.
Sure. So, you know, as I mentioned, there's the traditional way and then there's the way that we wanted to do it, and I think how most people need to do it, and that was through the REMI model rather. So for us, the production brief was around being able to produce 4 rugby games across 4 different countries. And for us, the requirements seemed to be quite difficult logistically to produce it. So we sourced locally. We had 2 key crew members fly to 2 of the games because in the local country we struggled to get cameramen that we needed, so we flew cameramen there. The other countries, we hired local cameramen with local LiveU support. So logistically, it was incredibly light from a footprint perspective that was on site. Essentially, it was just cameramen. And in 2 of the 4 countries, it was cameramen that we had actually never met before. Through the LiveU support network, they actually helped us facilitate that on the ground. And then back inside the studio based here in Cape Town, because of the efficiencies and because it's a permanent installation, we actually only had 5 key crew members running the control room plus commentary. So it really became quite an effective and efficient setup in order to execute, and was more of a situation of only worrying about logistics for 2 people than it was about a whole team and hardware traveling around Africa.
So Trent, obviously there's a lot of reasons that a customer might want to use an at-home production type situation. How does this play into your decision to use at-home production for these types of events, as well as the ROI that brings?
Very much so. So one of the main topics we spoke about was the rugby that we produced in Africa, and for us, our client wanted to be able to independently produce it. And be able to do that in a cost-effective manner for their own platforms and to grow their own digital ecosystem. So in order to do that, we needed to be cost effective in order to get the strongest ROI back for them and their sponsors that were involved in that production. So that is why we looked at the REMI model, just clear to us and firm believers of that it is more cost effective in general to go down this route. And ideally, the lower the cost, the bigger the return, the better the ROI on it.
And certainly this has opened up some interesting opportunities as it relates to content customization, for lack of a better term.
Definitely. You know, I think that when rights holders are independently producing, they have a lot more say over the storyline that's created. And that allows you to create certain or carve out certain areas of a production that could be more sponsor focused, which assists in sponsor ROI and their return. And then being able to grow your own social platforms and use the social platforms that have mass reach and audience already in order to grow their own brand out there is also very important to them.
Now, I also understand that you guys had the announcers located at your facility for this particular Rugby Cup, and that's certainly a great theater of the mind that you were able to pull off, correct?
Yeah, so we had, you know, from the production crew perspective, vision mixers, director, sound, graphics, replay, and commentators were all in our studio. The only footprint that was on site was our cameramen, who were running our effects, and our refs and mics coming in through their cameras.
And what kind of challenge does that pose for you guys in terms of having to work in such a remote situation? I mean, did you hit any speed bumps that you had to kind of overcome?
You know, I think it's like any production, there's always challenges, but for us there were different challenges. Language barrier was one, working with local crew. Understanding signal strength and data strength from site. We ran all 3 of the 4 venues, ran off SIM cards the whole way through, and without any challenges there. On the last venue, we were able to use fiber on site, but if that wasn't there, we would have happily used SIM cards on there. So that was great. We did have the luxury of having LiveU support us in most of the countries we went to, so it gave us a bit of peace of mind from the local production services there. But really the challenges we faced were almost non-production challenges, rather challenges about getting the information that we needed or making sure that there is redundancy in place and backup plans should something go wrong.
So in thinking about Moonsport TV and how you guys were able to leverage this, I'm assuming you've done other REMI or at-home type scenarios. How has this changed your business, and what does this mean, do you think, for the future, given the evolving world that we're all living in?
Sure. You know, we see REMI production probably a bit differently to the conventional broadcast understanding of it. For me, it's a way of being able to bring in remote feeds to a central location and distribute, or distribute feed from a central location. So Moonsport as a business focuses on in-stadium productions, what we deem entertainment, as well as content across all mediums. And for us, especially during COVID, it's a way of engaging with the fans and bringing fans into the content and fans into the in-stadium experiences as well. So it really is for us a tool with multiple approaches to it, rather than being able to replace the traditional methods of broadcast.
So let's talk about fan engagement for a second, because obviously, given the coronavirus situation, fan engagement is going to change dramatically for every sport. How do you think you guys will play a role in that?
Sure. Look, as a business, you know, it's key to what we do. We really enjoy the activation space inside the stadiums, but it has to be digital first now, and we have to be able to bring fans to the stadiums, because broadcast needs the support of the fans and the effects that it gives. Players need the supports of the fans. So we need to find ways to bring feed into the stadium rather than necessarily taking feed just out from the stadium to the couch. So there's various ways that we can do it. You know, essentially we see our way of working with LiveU in this way is bridging the gap of distribution and been able to capture the feed through multiple ways and use this as our connectivity to bring it into the stadium itself. We've also been using, a little bit different to fan engagement, but we've also been using these services in order to do remote directing. So we assist film production companies here in Cape Town with their remote directors and their remote clients that aren't able to travel. We're able to distribute the feed in close to real time, that they are directors and brands and clients are able to actually sign off projects as they go along or productions as they go along without even being here.
Trent, thank you so much for joining us on the LiveU Sports Show. It's great to talk with such an innovative person as yourself, and I really look forward to seeing what you and Moonsport is going to do in the near future.
Very kind of you. Thank you for having me.
Now, as all of you remember, last week we announced the brand new LU800 platform and its multi-camera production capabilities. That'll obviously make a big difference for Trent and his production capabilities, but let's go now toward Janel Fleming to talk more about that. Janel?
Thanks, Chris. I'm sitting here today with Fahad Haider, Chief Technology Officer at New England Sports Network. Fahad, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So Fahad, you've used LiveU's wireless at-home production solution for a number of years now for NESN's spring game coverage of the Boston Red Sox. So I want to ask, how do you plan on using this new LU800 for your REMI productions, specifically spring training next year and possibly anything beyond that?
Absolutely. Our relationship with LiveU goes longer than probably most networks. We have been doing REMI production using LiveU 600 units for several years. We bring 6 camera back to NESN from JetBlue Park, and we do entire REMI production at NESN. With this unit coming out, it definitely enables us to do a lot more. The first thing for our remote production guys at JetBlue Park will be the simplified infrastructure. Instead of having 6 backpacks of 600, we can have 4 camera goes in one unit and then additional 2 cameras goes in the another 800 units. So we are definitely looking at using that unit, and I think it will provide embedded audio. I believe that will be a big feature because currently we also have a remote audio kit that we roll out, and embedded audio will definitely help simplify our setup.
So NESN broadcasts games, covers news around games for specifically all of the Boston sports teams. In what way do you see the LU800 enhancing that mission to cover Boston teams?
Yeah, so beside the live broadcast of live games, LiveU enables us to feed live footage or pre-recorded footage from different local events like press conferences or other local events where we don't have any fiber connectivity or we won't roll down the satellite truck. So with this new unit and our plan to go in the future to start our 4K channel, we'll definitely use this to bring 1080p or 4K footage back at NESN. We will definitely use HEVC H.265, and also the embedded audio part, as I said earlier, will simplify everything from the photog side. Now, in addition to that, one of the features that we are also looking to use is if we are doing multi-camera setup, all the cameras will be synced together, and that will be an additional bonus for us.
That's great. So that sort of leads me into my next question. You were instrumental in contributing to some of the features of this LU800, being one of our major customers. So my question really is, what features of the 800 do you see being the most beneficial to the sports market as a whole? And how will some of those enhanced features change the way you produce content?
Absolutely. So, and you're right, our engineers tested this unit with LiveU and provided our feedback. Few of the features stand out really on 800 side, starting the 4K HDR part. Since we are planning to do HDR games in the future, we can definitely use that unit to record some of the pre-game footage or some of the interviews in the same format and feed it back to NESN. The tally feature is also something that we are looking to use. In addition to that, some of the audio channels, we were restricted to 4 or 8 channels in the past. The 16 audio channels will definitely provide much more flexibility if we bring more than few pairs of audio. Simplified setup versus 600. So there's less cabling, less time involved for engineers or FOROCs to set up this unit. And also, I would like to definitely add one other important feature of LiveU 800, that's 5G. And we are really looking to use that feature once the 5G is widely available by service providers. In the past, we started using LiveU with MPEG-4 H.264, and once you have the HEVC H.265 out, we started using that for our sprint training games and local events we were doing in the Massachusetts and New England area, and that definitely enhanced the video compression and the transport. In addition to that, HEVC and H.265, adding 5G will definitely provide much more stability in the picture, and we are really looking forward to utilize that feature.
Us too, Fahad. I can't wait for the networks to roll out and us to really test what 5G is capable of. So thank you so much. Your insight is always great to hear. Appreciate your time, and thank you so much for joining us on our LiveU Sports Show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, now I'm even more excited for the LiveU 800. Back to you, Chris.
Thanks, Janel. I got to tell you, this is a pretty exciting unit. So if you want more information on the LiveU 800, please feel free to visit our website. That is go.liveu.tv/LiveU800. That's going to do it for this edition of the LiveU Sports Show. Coming up next week, we're going to get dirty here on the Sports Show. We're going to go to the off-road racetrack and talk about the Mint 400. On behalf of everyone here at LiveU, thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Chris Perry. Good night.
Thanks for watching the LiveU Sports Show.